In May 2025, during a live stream on TikTok, a crime was recorded in front of more than 15,000 people. Since then, many strange things began to connect. In this case, pieces that on their own might just seem like coincidences, but together form a chain that's hard to ignore. Someone asked her to stay there on the live stream, said that a gift was on its way, other gifts had already arrived, kept arriving. It was something unusual and strange. The victim said she was scared. She said that looking at the camera. Minutes later, the crime and the live stream turned off by those who were there together. Like it was turned off as if it was nothing. I'm Marcos Campos, and this case takes place in Mexico, and it seems like something is blocking what should be the natural closing of the links in this criminal chain. If you like learning about real cases in detail, subscribe to the channel. Every week there are several episodes. If possible, become a member. If not, a like or even an emoji comment helps a lot. Message from Dados. Let's get to the facts. Valeria Márquez was born on February 14, 2002 in Jalisco, Mexico. She was the oldest of two siblings and spent much of her childhood under the care of her grandparents. People who knew Valeria usually describe her the same way: a cheerful, outgoing, affectionate girl, the kind who walks in and lights up the room. She liked being close to her family, especially her cousins, and always made a point of showing as much affection as possible. This easy way of connecting with people ended up opening doors for her early on. At 16, Valeria was already starting to work as a model, and in 2018 she was chosen for campaigns by Mexican brands. After that, she worked with jewelry stores, all of this in Guadalajara, her home country. During this same period, Valeria started sharing her daily life on social media, simple photos, behind the scenes, her routine, and little by little her audience grew. In 2021, she modeled debutante dresses for the dress brand Fashion 15. In the same year, she won the title of Miss Rostro, a turning point in her career. After that, Valeria appeared more frequently in local campaigns, shop windows, and boutiques. Meanwhile, she was also building her image as a social media influencer. Her audience was mainly made up of young women. From Jalisco, she discussed makeup, personal care, and fashion in her unique style, with her charisma. And over time, Valeria found her own style. She mixed modern aesthetics with traditional elements of Mexican culture. And that caught the attention of brands, which started reaching out to her more and more often. On social media, there was also space to show a comfortable lifestyle. After all, she was already gaining a certain status as a digital influencer, and as a result, her life was improving. She was now taking trips, traveling on private jets, and going on art tours. All of this was part of the image she started to build of herself. In 2023, Valeria started investing in eyebrow design courses. The idea of having her own business began to take shape at that moment. The following year, in 2024, she took the decisive step in her life. She opened her own beauty salon, Blouson, the Beauty Lounge. The place was located in a shopping center in the Real del Carmen neighborhood in Zapopan. At the start of 2025, Valeria had over 223,000 Instagram followers and 100,000 on TikTok. She did live streams almost every day, many of them directly from her own salon. She talked about aesthetics, as we saw, fashion, personal care, and also offered training courses in non-invasive treatments. Everything seemed to fit perfectly in her life, exactly as she had planned since she was a teenager. In the first months of 2025, Valeria started to open up more to the people who were close to her. She talked not only about work, but also about her own life. She talked about the end of a relationship, said that her ex-boyfriend used to threaten her, but despite all of that, despite this complicated relationship, she said she still dreamed of getting married, but at that moment she was disappointed with love. During a live stream, she shared that she had been betrayed in past relationships. She was starting to lose hope of finding someone who would truly respect her. She also talked about a fight with a very close friend and mentioned the difficult relationship she had with her father. Guys, all these points that I'm just sprinkling here for you, right? For example, a supposed boyfriend who threatened her, heartbreak, right? She didn't want to marry now because she was disillusioned with love. A fight with a friend, a supposedly complicated, tumultuous relationship with her father. All of this is brought up and stays on the surface, you see? Nothing goes deeper. But even though they're just little points like that on our investigation board, dish is funny, right? On our investigation board. I mean, after I explain everything, I ask that you remember this so we can try to find the thread of this case, okay? Look, there was a dream that always came up in Valeria's conversations, studying dentistry. Valeria even took some classes in the previous years, but she ended up leaving college to focus on her business, which was already flourishing. It was something she said she wanted to get back to in the future. A future that, unfortunately, never came. The day of the crime. On May 13th, 2025, Valeria posted a selfie at her salon, dressed in a pink bodysuit and white pants. She also promoted the services of her salon, Blossom Beauty Lounge. Everything seemed absolutely normal, following the routine she always had. At a certain point, Valeria left the salon that day, and that's when something strange happened. A man came into the place asking for her. Erica, his salon employee, answered him. The delivery man seemed confused then. Erica offered to accept a package there for her boss, but the delivery guy refused. He said he had to deliver it himself, but Erica assured him she'd handle the package and everything. Even so, the man asked when Valeria would be back and then left without leaving anything. Later on then, Erica would say that the supposed gift was inside a bag, a big shopping bag there with some stars on it. She never got to see what was inside that package. Actually, the investigation will later confirm it happened right there, that a gun was hidden. Shortly after, Valeria went back to the salon and started a live stream on her TikTok, something routine as well, something she always did. And during that live, she said that Erica had commented about what happened at the salon earlier, that a delivery guy showed up there, he had a big package, the delivery guy didn't want to give it to her, maybe it was something very valuable, I don't know what she told her. All of that to Valeria, who told her followers during the live. At that moment, Valeria already seemed a little restless, as if she knew something, that something was happening there. And out loud, looking at the camera, she said the following, I think they're going to kill me. Minutes after that, she even said, I'm leaving now, because I've already sunk. She even asked her followers if they thought she could be kidnapped. Around 6:30 p.m., a man arrived at the salon on a motorcycle, asked for Valeria, and made a delivery. It was something to consume. Some sources say it was a Starbucks coffee, something like that. Shortly after, another delivery person showed up, but this time he delivered a teddy bear to Valeria. She commented again on the live stream about how all of that seemed too strange, unusual. She said again that she thought it was better to leave, I don't know, here like this. As I said, all the facts in this case are superficial. Knowing these points, it suggests she either knew something or sensed it, maybe. But while this was happening, she was exchanging messages with a friend of hers there in the chat during the live stream and all, and according to the followers who were watching the live stream, this friend, Vivian, kept insisting that Valeria stay in the salon because she had sent a gift and wanted to see her friend's reaction when the gift arrived. You could even hear Valeria, visibly nervous, saying, she wants me to wait. She says she wants to see my face. Quick, I have to go. A few minutes later, another delivery guy arrives, the third one during that same period. Valeria mutes the live stream mic, holding the teddy bear and looking away from the camera. Then, the man shoots her twice, once in the abdomen, once in the head. Viewers watching the live stream saw Valeria murdered. She placed her hands on her chest and stomach, then fell off the chair. Afterward, Erica, the employee, approached the cell phone and simply ended the live stream right there. An action that drew attention then. There was something strange there, right? Why? Like, he just got shot twice. The guy was there unafraid. Like, right? Maybe a reaction. The most common one I'd say would be to scream, run away, I don't know, forget there was a live stream going on. No. The attitude was to go there, grab it, and turn it off. Now we'll see what happens next. But not saying anything. Whoever needs to see will. It's because of the police, right? Comment here. Does this seem normal? Doesn't that sound a bit cold? The rescue arrived, but Valeria had already died. Repercussion investigation and theories. The news spread within minutes, proving the saying, bad news travels fast. Not just because Valeria is popular, but for obvious reasons, right? That was broadcast live. Dozens were there. Thousands, actually. 15,000 people. Everyone watched that crime in real time. Within hours, the video spread across all social networks, reposted, downloaded, and shared by those vulture-like people, until it was removed for clearly violating the rules of all the platforms, right? The reaction was instant. Outrage, anger, commotion, and speculation. Valeria's TikTok account was soon deactivated, and the autopsy later confirmed what was already clear. Valeria had died from 2 gunshot wounds, injuries caused by a firearm. Meanwhile, the police began searching for the man who had posed as a fake delivery man. No official line of investigation was announced at that first moment, but from the very first hours, one hypothesis started to gain traction. The crime drew attention because the attacker entered the salon, asked for Valeria, confirmed her identity, and shot her at point-blank range. There was no argument, no hesitation. The escape was quick. This reinforces the feeling that it wasn't an impulsive act, caused by some momentary quarrel, but something planned. If you consider everything that happened that day, things were strange all day, right? There was also another detail that couldn't be ignored. The crime occurred in Jalisco, a Mexican state known as the birthplace of one of the country's most feared criminal organizations. Additionally, attacks by men on motorcycles were already a common part of the region's violence. The day after the murder, the press started to mention a name, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, known as WR. That's it. Just adding that information, right? That's when this issue of organized crime came up and all, which is very common, that kind of crime there. Let's say it like this. I'm not sure if that was an official line of investigation, but without anything else clear at that moment, it always seems to lean toward elementary, maybe because it's business and part of their routine. Unfortunately, that's why it happened. But when the name of this person I just mentioned comes up, some loose ends in the investigation start to connect. Why? According to some reports, this man would be a high-ranking hitman in organized crime. He was identified as the leader of Grupo Elite and linked to murders of influential people for over a decade. What else was left to discover? Is why he would murder Valeria, who was an influencer. She was on the rise. But that's why I said everything feels superficial. I don't know what was going on in her personal life, you know? Who she was hanging out with, if there was any beef that nobody knew about. Anyway, what I know is that some reports that were made, even by the United States, indicated that this man was also involved in the propaganda of a criminal organization. His name had already surfaced in investigations into attacks on police and the murder of a Jalisco Secretary of State in 2013. He was also mentioned in an old case, the murder of a Venezuelan model, which happened more than 10 years earlier. That's why I mentioned that some loose ends are connected. Right? The similarities and such brought up this name. Because some rumors indicated that supposedly this man, Velasco, had a relationship with Valeria months before her death. So, could something have happened that led to this? Despite that, the Jalisco prosecutor's office denied any connection between Velasco and the crime. They stated that he wasn't even part of the investigation. Still, the cartel theory spread. So here you can see that actually it was the people, right? The theorists on the internet who were spreading this. Me! In my ignorance, to be honest with you, I didn't get the impression that it was really something done by criminals. To be honest, it's true there's this rumor that she dated the guy, but... Why, right. Like that, maybe it's because the guy's a criminal. From such a high rank like that, to take the risk like that of getting screwed. Because what could this girl have done, man? Of course, the police need to investigate all of this, right? But like, I don't know. It's all about rising up, right? We also know that in this digital influencer world, people can make their own way too, right? I'm just thinking out loud, it could be related, right? This issue reminds me of what I said about traveling in chartered flights. But I'm not sure she would have done anything just hanging around in a salon. Having her own business doesn't really make sense, right? When we start trying to dive into deeper theories like related to organized crime. I don't know, but comment if you agree. One thing I know, guys, this buzz, right? Blaming everything on organized crime would make it harder to consider other real suspects. Do you agree? Like this. If it was someone else, not someone from organized crime, damn, everyone's looking over there and I'm going unnoticed here, you agree? So, well, in the following days, the authorities also had that feeling, okay, that there was no evidence that the murder had been ordered by any criminal organization. The bizarre thing is that no suspect was on the investigation's radar until then. But some elements came up. This thing about no suspect showing up is just too weird, right? Because let's be honest, guys, there were things to follow up on, right? Some other elements came up. Old messages attributed to Valeria. In those messages, the young woman said her ex-partner would be responsible if anything happened to her, which fueled existing speculations. Meanwhile, outside analyses there helped kind of added fuel to the fire, you know, of the suspicion. Some reports indicated that Zapopan, the place where the crime happened, despite its appearance as a safe and luxurious neighborhood, was one of the most violent areas in the state. Shopping centers? Luxury shopping centers there, private security, well-maintained streets, but shootings and executions kept happening there frequently. But it's just more of the same, right? There's nowhere to connect that to. Jalisco is one of the Mexican states most affected by drug trafficking, as I mentioned. Thousands of people disappear there, especially in recent years, and most of the homicides remain unsolved. And in this context, it made many believe that the killer acted certain that he would go unpunished. In June, United States authorities mentioned this Velasco again. This happened when they sanctioned cartel leaders for violent crimes. The young woman's family declined to discuss theories, only speaking publicly at her funeral. In front of the cameras, Valeria's grandfather said that at first he hadn't even been informed of his granddaughter's death. He thought she had been in an accident, and when they asked what he expected now, he answered just one thing: justice. An aunt of the young woman also spoke to the press, saying that the video made it clear that more than one person could be involved in the homicide. And she suggested that the investigation should take a close look at everyone who was with Valeria in her final moments. Like, the aunt said, investigate the basics, damn it. That's why I mentioned that this hypothesis of organized crime being involved was just too convenient for other possibilities. Well, shortly after, the prosecution officially confirmed the obvious. Valeria had been killed by a hitman. That is, a contract killer. The attack started to be treated as a possible contract killing. According to the authorities, the shooter didn't say a word. He just confirmed the victim's name, executed her, and left the salon. But then comes another unusual element in this case. About a week after the crime, a bouquet of roses was left in front of the salon, which was already closed. A small note reading forgiveness was attached to the bouquet of roses. Police cordoned off the area. The delivery man was identified. He said he was only hired to deliver the flowers. He didn't know who had placed the order. That, I would say, in my layman's opinion again, is very suspicious, isn't it? Sorry. Think of those puzzle pieces on the table. You do something like this, right? Or am I completely off? Wow, sorry. Who could have asked forgiveness then? I'll tell you in a moment. Are you on the same page as me, guys? Same mindset? Comment here if you're thinking of a name. The investigation started to look into whether that request came from the killer or if it was just a cruel provocation from someone. But the strange events didn't stop there, okay? Soon after the burial, images of Valeria's vandalized grave circulated, flowers destroyed, objects broken, her name covered. Followers then organized themselves to clean up the place and pay tribute to her. Despite official promises and public statements, weeks went by and no one was arrested. The demand for justice only grew. Friends, family, women's groups, and marches filled the streets. As answers didn't come, doubts about everything and everyone kept growing. On May 17th, another name came into the spotlight, Vivian de la Torre, one of Valeria's closest friends. Who can guess? That same story about the gift during the live stream, remember? Stay there because I want to see your face when my gift arrives, man. Strange coincidence, right? She was named in the investigation for one reason, just minutes before her murder. Valeria said during the live stream that Vivian kept urging her to stay and promised to send a gift. After the crime, Vivian turned off comments on her social media. And that, instead of calming the situation, of course, only increased the suspicion about it. I did some research here on the internet and there's a lot of stuff. She was showing, at the very least, some unusual behavior, like wearing clothes similar to Valeria's. Guys, this world of influencers, of course, not to generalize. There are good and bad people everywhere, obviously, but there's a lot of envy there, okay? A lot of shady thinking, one trying to pull the rug out from under the other. A hell of a lot of envy. It sometimes feels like people kind of lose touch with reality, you know? And in this detachment from reality, when you look from the outside with a bit more common sense, with your feet on the ground, you say, man, some people seem capable of anything. To kind of materialize something that doesn't exist, something that's only in these people's minds, you know? It's such a huge fantasy world. And it's something complex. It's about who's creating and who's watching the content. It's a thing here. I don't know. So, like, the feeling is that this detachment can really be able to flip a switch in the person's mind, okay? Who already has, of course, a tendency suddenly to be a little out of their mind. It's sick as hell, but it gives viewers the impression of narcissism and envy, bad character, etc. So when she finally decided to speak, this Vivian said she never imagined something like this could happen. She explained that she always had the habit of sending gifts to Valeria, both when she was live and outside of the broadcasts. She also urged people to stop making baseless theories and accusations. She said that a lot of things were being said irresponsibly and that only increased the pain of those who were already grieving. Vivian stated that Valeria, whom she called Vale, was like a sister to her and said directly that she would never do anything to hurt her. But she wasn't the only close person targeted by speculation. In June, another name surfaced on social media. An old video resurfaced where Valeria said that despite saving a lot, she still needed a loan from her father to open the salon. After that, reports emerged that the young woman's father had visited her house, turned everything upside down, lifted the mattress, searched the house for money and valuables. It was also spread that he was actually disputing the assets left in the salon after his daughter's death. I mentioned her biography at the start of the video. She lived with her grandparents, right? Few details exist about her relationship with her parents. Anyway, none of this, however, was officially confirmed and it was never proven that this man was being investigated by the prosecutor's office. Not even the friend, okay? I mentioned it, didn't I? Looking at these things, it's bizarre. I even thought, man, I might not share this case on the channel since the investigation is so superficial. It seems impossible. I don't think it was made public. I don't think I found any articles that talk about this because, man, it's almost unbelievable, right? Well, on June 13th, the Jalisco prosecutor's office said at least 30 people had been interviewed. Still, there were no arrests or formal suspects in the case. The head prosecutor said the investigation was complex and needed time, fieldwork, video analysis, and technical exams. He added the inquiry already contained several volumes, testimonies, and evidence, but few details could be shared at that time. At the same time, police confirmed they had identified the flower shop where the bouquet with the forgiveness note was bought. The name of the person who placed the order was known, but they hadn't been found yet. Meanwhile, the case was spiraling. Fake social media profiles shared old Valeria live streams, while others posted AI-generated videos of her claiming she faked her death. This, of course, increased the confusion. In later interviews, the authorities stated that there had been progress in the investigation, but emphasized that since it was a sensitive case with major repercussions, they could not release concrete information. So what I said makes sense, right? They released nothing at all. Up to then, two main hypotheses were still being debated. The first, supported by the prosecution, was that Valeria had been the victim of a crime committed by a hired killer. Seriously? The theory claims the shooter didn't know the victim, so he checked her identity before shooting. The second hypothesis, backed by some media and many online users, suggested a possible link to drug trafficking. Either way, whether it's drug trafficking, someone, a grudge, envy, or debt collection, it was ordered. That's kind of obvious, right? Damn. What I know, guys, is that it seems like the most important link in this case wasn't considered, or if it was, it wasn't made public. Meanwhile, the case was compared to other influencer murders in Mexico. It's not the only one. In Jalisco, for example, a recent crime was also recorded on video. The victim was Carla Banuelos. The suspect, known as Kelvin on social media, remains at large. Similar incidents are now occurring abroad, such as in Colombia. A few days later, a young content creator was murdered after a man posed as a delivery person. She had reported her ex-partner for domestic violence years earlier, and the court decision against him had been issued just one day before the crime. The similarities are striking, aren't they? This supports the idea that Valeria may have been killed for hire, possibly due to a past relationship. In the end, only questions remain, right? It's Erica. She was the last on the live stream and ended the broadcast. According to what was said after the shots, Vivian was the one who insisted that Valeria stay in the salon. She mentioned gifts and asked her to wait longer. Does that prove anything? No. But it can't be treated as an irrelevant detail either, can it? When a crime happens live, premeditated, and coldly executed, you'd expect every action of those closest to be examined thoroughly, right? That doesn't seem to have happened. If it did, I didn't see it. Still, remember, she was supposedly scared too? Afraid of who? Something was happening and only she seemed to know, right? If the cartel theory is correct, the reality is harsh, but the odds of arrest are rare. Such cases often get ignored, dismissed, and go unpunished. But what if it wasn't the cartel? If someone close was involved directly or indirectly, then the lack of further investigation into them is, at the very least, unusual, isn't it? It's not about accusing without evidence, it's about investigating without. Fear of accepting too many coincidences in a clearly non-random crime. Valeria warned us. She was scared and sensed something was wrong. She'll look into it, right? Even so today, months after the crime, there are still no answers, just theories. Although authorities stick to theories, the feeling remains that someone failed before, during, and especially after. But while you don't get an official answer, which line of investigation or which of these hypotheses we've raised here would you follow? I really appreciate your company. Don't forget to leave your comment, even if it's just an emoji. Subscribe to the channel. A kiss from Ruivo. See you next time.